Hey gang, what's up? Hope everybody's having a good day out there today, and welcome back here to another episode of Intuitive Angling. And as always, really appreciate you guys spending some time with me and checking the video out. Guys, today we're going to be talking about why most anglers, and when I say most, I do mean most, anglers struggle with jerkbait fishing. There are very few anglers out there that I meet that consider themselves highly skilled jerkbait anglers, because one of the things about jerkbait fishing, if you guys watch the channel very much, we talk about jerkbaits a lot here, is that jerkbait fishing is the most difficult, complex technique to fish, simply because of the variables involved in it, and the fact that this is one of the few lure categories out there that you have got to manipulate and impart the action on the lure itself. You can't just throw a jerkbait out there and reel it in like you can a crankbait or spinnerbait or something like that and catch fish on it. So there's a lot of subtleties to it. So what I want to do, guys, today is I sort of want to go over some of the big reasons why a lot of people don't have success with jerkbait, and help you guys out to start catching some fish on it. So anyway, guys, also, if you guys are interested in some of the jerkbaits, or just jerkbaits in general, I'll put some of my favorite jerkbaits that I like to use in my tackle warehouse link in the description of this video. And if you guys want to use that link, it's a good way to support the channel and get some good jerkbaits as well there. Okay, guys, we've done a ton of stuff on jerkbaits on the channel, and we'll continue doing it because it's such a fascinating technique, and there's so many seasonal applications, and there's so many, not only seasonal, but there's situational applications for jerkbaits. And the reason that I do so many is because of everything surrounding it. When you're talking about a jerkbait and its ability to generate a strike, you've got to consider the color, the profile, the lip size, the internal balancer system on that, the water temperature, the weather conditions, the species of bass that you're after, the cadence, the retrieve, the line, the rod, the line size, everything about it. It just goes on and on and on. So it can get a little bit overwhelming. And so I want to give you guys sort of a foundation, and also if you want to go back on my playlist on Intuitive Angling, just hit my playlist. I got a ton of jerkbait videos in there on specifics, but today I just sort of want to give you guys an overview why you're probably struggling with it. Okay, the first thing, I think a lot of people oversimplify it. When they say, well, I better get me some jerkbaits, to have it, they'll get something like, they'll get a few Megabass Vision 110s or whatever like that, and they get 2 or 3 colors and maybe one profile of bait with one lip size, and they just call it good. You can't do that, guys, because one of the things in jerkbait fishing is that jerkbaits are the most color sensitive bait of any lure category out there. In terms of color, makes a huge difference in it, because what happens with the jerkbait is when you reel that jerkbait down and get it down to its deepest point, a ton of times, since you're fishing this bait slow a lot of times, even if you're jerking it and pausing it, it still is not moving consistently through the water column. Bass will get close to a jerkbait and they study it from all different directions. And a lot of times it's the color that makes all the difference as far as generating that strike. And so that strike generation, as far as the thing that color, how it affects it, it's based upon the light intensity, the light penetration, the wind, a bunch of different factors out there. But the first piece of advice I'll give you while you're struggling is you probably don't have enough colors. So instead of like giving you a bunch of favorite colors, you need 3 basic color patterns in a jerkbait. You need some type of a translucent finish, some type of a see-through for cleaner water conditions. You need some type of a flat or matte finish that you cannot see through for like cloudy conditions and a little bit dirtier water. And then you need some that have a metallic finish on it that put out a flash that are really good on sunny days. That's the number 1 thing. Number 2 thing, why a lot of people struggle with it, is they don't know how to work a jerkbait. They don't understand the cadence of a jerkbait. Most people, for the most part, guys, when they fish a jerkbait, they get this thing there where it's just jerk, jerk, pause, jerk, jerk, pause, jerk, jerk, pause. And yeah, you can catch a few fish in there doing that, but a lot of times you have to figure out the cadence and the retrieve based upon, again, a wide range of factors. It's got to be based upon water temperature, water clarity, the species of bass you're fishing, the wind condition, the mood and the personality of the bass, all that type of stuff. So one of the things you have to figure out about Cadence is it changes every day, so you have to experiment. Here's a foundational, just a general rule of thumb with that. The colder the water and the more off-colored the water, the slower you have to work the bait. That's when you have cold, off-colored water, you have to let the bait set for a long time. Now, as the water clarity increases along with the water temperature, you can start speeding it up. And a lot of people don't equate jerkbait speed with water clarity. Excuse me. But water clarity works in correlation with water temperature. So as the water gets warmer and clearer, you need to speed it up and speed your cadence up and reduce the amount of time between pauses. But if the water warms up a little bit and still stays dirty, you don't want to speed it up quite as much. So there's sort of like a fine line that goes with that. And also you'll find out the species of bass has a lot to do with cadence. Overall, spotted bass and smallmouth bass like a little bit faster cadence. Smallmouth bass like the faster cadence of all of them, followed up by spotted bass. And largemouth usually prefer the slower cadence overall. Now, sometimes there's not a lot of big differences in that, but you know, that's a general rule of thumb. Another thing with the jerkbait, a lot of people use too heavy a line. I recommend for jerkbait fishing guys between 6 to 10 pound tests. I usually use Seaguar and Vizex fluorocarbon line. You don't ever want to use braid to fluorocarbon, simply because you'll overwork the bait, and you'll also pull the jerkbait away from the fish when they hit it. So never ever use braid to fluorocarbon, which I see a lot of guys do. The other reason they're struggling along with the line is they got the wrong rod. You need a medium action tip on the rod you use. I use a spinning rod. You guys, if you watch the videos, 99% of the time, a spinning rod will allow you to impart more subtle action and make longer casts and make the bait look realistic. So I think that people, as far as their equipment, they use too heavy a line, they use too stiff a rod, and they use a bait cast rod too much. That's another big part of it. The other thing about that, why a lot of people struggle, guys, again, is with the Jerkbait Profile. This is the Megabass Vision 110+1, which is sort of the standard size in a jerkbait. But jerkbaits range in size from like that little Megabass Nanahan, which is about 3 inches long, up to a big jerkbait like that Megabass Canada, which is like 6 or 7 inches long. So you have to determine the size of the profile of the jerkbait based upon, again, your conditions. And again, those conditions are based upon time of the year, you know, weather conditions, water temperature, water clarity, all that type of stuff. As a general rule of thumb, guys, go small with your jerkbaits in the wintertime and go larger in the spring and the summer, and then back to smaller in the fall time of the year. That's just an overall thing. But I think a lot of people, I'm gonna guess, I'd put this close to the top, is a lot of people, when they think that they're gonna fish a jerkbait, dropped it there, they just take one jerkbait, like a 110, and they just call it good. And it's like if they don't catch a fish on it, then they just think they're not biting a jerkbait. So that's not true there. That is a really big factor with it. Another factor, guys, well, a lot of them, is people don't pay enough attention to belly color. I think that belly color on a jerkbait, especially when you're fishing for suspended fish, is one of the most key elements. Sometimes they want just a natural pearl belly like this. Sometimes they want an orange. Sometimes they want a yellow or chartreuse. Sometimes they want a red. You got to experiment with belly color. That makes a big difference in triggering the strikes with that as well with that. And basically, guys, I think for the biggest reason overall that people struggle with jerkbaits is they don't make a commitment to it. If you're going to catch fish on a jerkbait, when you go jerkbait fishing, don't take anything else with you. Take a box full of jerkbaits, take a couple rods with you, and go out there and look for that type of water to catch those fish in. Jerkbait fishing is a highly specialized technique, and it's all about feel, and it's all about getting the right rhythm and speed and cadence and retrieve. And once you hit on that and you get a few bites on it, then you can duplicate it. One of the most rewarding things about the on-the-water lessons I do, if you guys are interested in an on-the-water jerkbait lesson, you can just message me on my Facebook page, Randy Blockett Professional Angler, with that. But one of the most rewarding parts about the on-the-water lessons is I get a lot of anglers out there that have never caught a fish on a jerkbait, and they want to go with me to learn how to catch a fish on a jerkbait. And everybody starts out the same. It's awkward. It's like jerk baits are hard to fish at first, and it takes maybe, almost half the day for them to get a feel for how to work the bait and a feel for the bait. And then once they catch a fish on it, once they feel what that fish, what it's like to get a bite on a jerk bait, it's like the light bulb turns on. It's like, oh, that's what I have to do with it. So until you do that, until you make a commitment to that, it's hard to get a feel for and gain confidence in how you're working a jerkbait, because it's so different from like throwing a crankbait out there or dragging a shaky head, that a lot of people just can't really wrap their mind around what it's going to feel like to get bit. And once you do get bit, you're sort of hooked. Because I can tell you one thing, guys, about jerkbait fishing, and I've talked to a couple other people about it. When people ask what's your favorite way to catch a bass, people say, a lot of people say topwater or something like that. In my opinion, guys, there's no funner bite than getting a jerkbait bite, because your line comes alive most of the time. There's two types of jerkbait bites. One is when you're jerking it down there and you pause it, and when you're pausing it, your line just jumps like that. You'll just see your line will be laying on the water, and all of a sudden it'll just like somebody took a hold of it and just pulled it like that. And the other is when you're jerking it like that, and you jerk down and it's just heavy. It's just like the fish hits it like that. Like you just feel like you got a load of brick on there, and you pull into it like that, and then you start pulling it. The jerkbait bite, to me, is the funnest bite in fishing with that. But anyway, guys, without going into an hour-long seminar, which I do, that's just a few reasons probably why most anglers struggle. Also, guys, I've got some hour-long jerkbait seminars in my other channel, Advanced Bass Fishing with Randy Blockett. I'll put the link to that channel in there, and you guys can check some of my hour-long seminars on it if you really want to get into some detail. So anyway, I hope it helps out. I hope you guys can start catching a few on it. I'll talk later.